Hi, everybody. Wishing all of you a very good evening. We're just going to wait for a couple of more students and parents to join in, and then we'll officially start the webinar. But meanwhile, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I've got Tirtha Banerjee with me, who's the Executive Director of the upGrad Institute of Medical Sciences, joining us all the way from Vanuatu. Super excited to be hosting you guys. We'll just wait for another 5 or 6 minutes for everyone else to be here. And then we'll officially put the context forth, start answering some of your questions, and address the most important bits of pursuing your MBBS or your global MD abroad, and talk about a new and upcoming country, Vanuatu, where we've set up a medical school called the upGrad Institute of Medical Sciences. They've especially joined us from Vanuatu to talk about the campus, to talk about the facilities, to talk about the infrastructure, talk about the faculty, to talk about what differentiates it as a state-of-the-art medical school with abundant infrastructure that really helps you get an early clinical exposure and sets you up for success in the medical industry. As per WHO, by the way, there is a shortage of about 6.4 million doctors across the world. So medical, for sure, is an indispensable domain of work or domain of study that you've picked up. And I think as upGrad, it falls upon us to advise, guide, coach, mentor you into picking one of the best schools that we've been able to incubate and create with the help of Deb. That said, just another couple of minutes, I'd request my colleagues to send a quick nudge and reminder to everyone else who joined in. Hi, Ronnie. For those who just joined in, wishing all of you a very good evening. Thank you for joining us. We're super keen to talk about the UIMS setup with you guys. Just waiting for a couple of more minutes for everyone else to join in, those who had signed up. Meanwhile, I'd like to summarize what we're going to speak about. We're talking about UIMS in Vanuatu, the upGrad Institute of Medical Sciences in Vanuatu, talking about its infrastructure, faculty, on different reasons why you should pursue an MBBS abroad. What are some of the career frontiers that you can pursue right after you do an MBBS and global MD, and talk about the difference between the 2 degree options that we've put forth for you, the MBBS and the Global Doctor of Medicine. That said, we'd also like to talk about the upGrad approach to how we deliver higher ed differently, how we set you up for success, the clinical and experiential part of our degree, and why it sets us apart from any other medical institution in the world. Like I said, we've got Tirtha joining us all the way from Vanuatu, from UIMS, who's the Executive Director at UIMS. And we've got Ronnie Screwvala with us, who's the chairman of the upGrad group, who's also going to be speaking about the vision behind UIMS, what inspired him to set that school up. And for all of the parents who joined us, how safe is Vanuatu, and the 3 or 4 primary and dominant reasons why we picked it as the place for setting up one of many medical schools that we're going to set up. But I think to begin with, I'd love to welcome Ronnie. Thanks for joining us. And I'd love for you to say a quick hello to everybody who's joined us, Ronnie.
Yeah, Pranay, thank you. And thanks everyone and welcome. And thank you for joining this. I'll try and make it simple. If anyone wants to ask us questions in Hindi, please do. Or in English, please do. If you ask me in Tamil, it might be a little tricky, but I'll still try and answer it. So firstly, when we started with upGrad, the most important thing, I think, for us was two things. Whatever we wanted to do with a high impact. We wanted to bring a change. We believe that the education system is strong, but there's a lot more that necessarily needs to be done. So to that extent, I think our main focus was really to figure out how we can make overall education affordable and accessible. Specifically, I think on day one, when we all started off and our co-founders, one of the key aspects was that we will do things where we believe these are where the careers of tomorrow will lie. And I think while medicine is something that we focused on in the last 2 years, before that, what we did, and we do very, very well. And today, actively, we have almost 200,000 to 300,000 students learning in some form or the other. Overall at upGrad, I would say about 10 million people have come onto our courses in some form or the other. When we look at learning and teaching, for us, the depth is very, very important. And when we started off 5 years, 7 years back, and we started courses in data science and machine learning and artificial intelligence, people thought, oh, this would be very niche. But we knew this is really where the trend is, where the careers of tomorrow are. Therefore, when we always looked at the medical part, I mean, firstly, I think we're all, especially when we live in India, and we have a large not-for-profit, Swadesh Foundation, named after a movie I produced many, many years ago. And when I look at rural India and I look at the lack of tertiary hospitals there, and I look at the fact that even with our community, when I want to give them an insurance premium, the main point is even if I get them insured, they have to travel 60, 70, 80 kilometers to a hospital. And the element of nursing and the element of medical care in India, we all know the statistics and the ratio. And from those days onwards, it was very clear to us that we needed to do something on this basis. I think in India, there are many institutions and they're very good, but I do believe that the faculty is one that moves with each other. So when we wanted to look at something, we wanted to look at something overseas, because while even when we go overseas, we may want to live in America and we may want to live in Australia and we may want to have our medical future there. But I think India needs phenomenal doctors of all sorts. And while we think that the exposure and the learning, my learnings have been that when you step out and you go overseas and you actually get that, the learning that you get from peer-to-peer learning. And I would say to that to a lot of students today, one is faculty, which is incredibly important. Second is curriculum, which is also equally important. But today, learning peer-to-peer is very, very critical. Learning from colleagues, learning from your co-students, knowing who your co-students are, in what environment you're studying in, what is the kind of hospitals and the doctors that you will be interacting with, what are the case studies that you will be studying is very, very important. And I think in the 7 years and 8 years that we have built upGrad, those are the things that we are very much focused on. I'd also like to state that the Maharashtra government, about two years back, entrusted us and gave us the first setting up the first urban university, skills university in India. And when we started off, the first precondition is, I'm sorry, we're giving you this license in June, but we want you to start in September. And we said, but we can't start a university in September. They said, that's why it's an urban university. Do whatever you have to do, but we want to start it in 90 days. Otherwise, you don't have the license. So we have two choices, either to say yes or to say no. So because we're in this sector, our simple answer was yes. And then for the next 90 days, and I think if any of you all come to Mumbai or if you stay there, go to the Bandra Kurla complex and see our Atlas Skill Tech University. First, that we set it up in 90 days. And what we set up, the faculty, our vice chancellor, our main dean and president, who is Dr. Indu Shahani, who actually set up the HR college in Mumbai, in commerce. She's been the sheriff of Mumbai. In 90 days to get the faculty. Today, upGrad has about 250 PhDs on our entire payroll. That's how serious we look at when we look at learning, when we look at education, when we look at the future, when we look at impact. So when we set up Atlas, for example, obviously that's not in medical, but it was in very many others. What we thought we would do in design and design thinking today, for a lot of people, that's equally an important career, a career which is not normally in most universities. What we set up there with faculty and with the entire infrastructure there, the extracurricular activities, the students' pride, about 50% of our students come from Mumbai and 50% come from all over India. And about 2-3% even come from overseas. We quickly tied up with almost 40 colleges across the world where our students can then go to for post-graduation. The reason I'm speaking about Atlas is when we look at something and when we look at a project, we look at it with scale, we look at it with impact, we look at it on a 360-degree approach. We look at that with faculty and we look at how we're going to make a change with people. So that's just the background that I wanted to give you. Specifically, when we went to Vanuatu, and I think I'll come to the two main questions that would be on most people's minds. But I think what are the key aspects for us? First is the government. Now, the government there has given us all the support. What we've got here is a university which is totally registered and acknowledged with the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, and the Prime Minister's office, because they are very, 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 very clear. This is something they want to do at scale. So when you have a government backing for a regulation, it actually makes a big difference. You're not one of 1,000 universities. You're not one of 100 universities. You're one of one. They have one of the most advanced hospitals there, which we've also seen. And to that extent, that has also been a very good one. So I think our focus was really government, registration, credibility. Then we come to campus, the actual campus, and then we look at the entire accommodation of what we want to do. So I think the kind of homework that we did there was something that was very, very critical for us to be able to do that. And I think our experience with setting up universities and setting up an education institution was really it. And I know when I got onto the webinar, I was told that one or two key questions uppermost in all our people's mind is, it's the first batch. Now, I don't think in today's day and world, you look at a first batch, because for upGrad, nothing is the first batch. At any given stage, we have more students with us in the entire upGrad, doing courses of between as short as 6 months, but all the way up to 3 years and 4 years, and degrees and diplomas. We have tie up with 9,000 universities across US, Australia, Canada, Germany, UK, and India. So when we look at anything else, there's never a first class. For us, this is one more of many classes that we would necessarily do. Second, I think our focus on getting the faculty that we got in was quite incredible. We have focused on an advisory board. Even in Atlas, we have the best people on our advisory board. So one of the things we did here was set up our own advisory board. And I think that has been also something that will bring the right kind of credibility. So I do believe this is not about a first batch. It is actually about the fact that the first 100 students that will go there will have a very different treatment and an approach, because almost all our faculty is going to be focused on them. Vanuatu is a very unique place. If you look at the Pacific Rim, even our Prime Minister has actually gone there twice and thrice since his election, because he actually believes that Pacific Rim, Australia, New Zealand, and other places, these are incredible markets. These are markets which are the futuristic markets in many ways. And I think from that perspective also, we're very, very pleased that we have picked a location, because if you're spending 5 to 5.5 years of your career, you want to be in a nice place. You want to be in a place where you study hard, but your mood, your environment, your sense of pride, your environment is also very, very good. And I think we've worked very hard towards creating that environment too. So I'll kind of pause here, Praneeth. I think I wanted to cover some of these points, and that's what I think we've done here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks. Just to add on to what Ronnie had mentioned, I think it is quite a fact at this point. There are about 6.4 million doctors that are globally desired, wanted. There's a shortage that has been officially listed by WHO. And I think the place where we've set up a school, there's an official shortage figure of 1 million doctors that are required. And I think, like Ronnie mentioned, this being one of the only schools gives you that opportunity, that platform to set up a whole career for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And of course, I think now that we've set up a school, we've made enough setup and structure for you to integrate back into the Indian medical ecosystem, appear for the tests, and then practice in India. Deb, who's the executive director for UIMS, who's with us from Vanuatu, will also talk about the global MD and how that leads you to a career path of becoming a global medical practitioner in the US or Canada or Australia or New Zealand or the UK. So we've set up that part of structure as well. Irrespective, I think it is now fully ascertain that doctors are required, they're needed. The demand is very much across the world. But I think my first question to Ronnie would be, what is it that inspired, with what narrative, with what story have we built UIMS with? And what is it that is going to be different about its infrastructure? What is the ideology that we've adopted in terms of experiential learning, in terms of making this a global hotspot of medical studies and not just one of the schools in the world that's trying to impart a degree in medicine?
I've learned, Praneeth, in my life that you stand out not necessarily only by what you learn, but the entire soft skills and the entire element of what you want to do. We've created a venue and a location where I think people will grow and will blossom. It is the best of the Western world in their outlook. The cosmopolitan nature of the people there in that country is very, very unique when they get there. You know, it's a very cosmopolitan country, from the Chinese to the Americans to the Europeans to people from Fiji and Australia. And so that entire exposure that you would get in a country which is there. At the same time, it's a small country, which allows you to actually feel that there's an identity that you will have. But our approach and our teaching is going to be one where we do want the personality of the person to come, because any doctor can be there and they can do many thought processes. But the point is, at the end of the day, they're going to be able to only be good by way of your communication skills, how you present, how you consult. You know, there are doctors and there are doctors. There are people in a medical facility. But broadly, this is how that would work as you go forward. So I think our approach and our specialty is to be very different in our approach and our teaching. Faculty and the way we've picked our faculty also gives that element of clarity where people are very cosmopolitan. They're coming from all over the world to be able to teach different styles of teaching. And we hope by the second year, the exposure that the students will get there will give them a very rounded environment, what they want to necessarily do. We also believe slowly that the Australian government, the New Zealand government will take situation. Our opportunities to go to neighboring lands, which are 1 hour flight, 2 hour flights away, is very strong. And that's what we're going to build on also.
Thanks, Ronnie. Dave, at this point, I'd like to invite you to talk about the 2 degree offerings that we have at UIMS, and as well as talk about the faculty in depth, who they really are, and talk about the 2 structures that we've built, one for 5.5 years and one for 6 years that we've now started. What are the attributable paths that students can follow if they were, or if they were not supposed to integrate back into the Indian system?
Great. Thanks, Praneeth. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to quickly take you people through a very small presentation which would answer many of these questions, and also give you a glimpse at the destination that we have been talking about. It's a brand new destination for the Indian students, and it's a country which is beautiful. It's in the South Pacific and very strategically located right in the middle of Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji. Let me share my screen here, and I will quickly take you through some slides which would throw a lot of throw highlight on some of the Praneeth, I'm not able to share. Just
a quick second.
Yeah,
you should be able to do it any minute now. Yes.
Thank you so much, Praneeth. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Once again, I would like to welcome everybody to upGrad Institute of Medical Sciences. And the location where we are based is called Port Vila. It is the capital city of the country called Vanuatu. Vanuatu is a Commonwealth nation and it lies right between Australia, Fiji, and New Zealand, quite in the center of the South Pacific region. And Port Vila is the capital. It has a population about 50 to 60,000 people. One of the main languages, official languages here is Bislama, but English and French are widely spoken and most people understand and speak English. That's a very big advantage in a study abroad location, as many of the options for study abroad available in today's scenario, the local language are different and local languages need to be learned and spoken in order to get the right clinical exposure. Here, most people speak English. English is spoken in the hospitals, and that gives a big advantage to students from India. Very nice climate, tropical climate, and as Ronnie already pointed out, it's a culturally diverse country. There is a mix of French, British, Australian, Chinese, Korean people here. There's also spattering of Fijian Indians, and it's a very safe country. One of the anecdotes is that the police don't carry arms at all. So the crime rate is absolutely negligent. They're good people, happy, church-going people, and they are very nice to talk to. They are always happy. They would smile at you. It's a very nice atmosphere here to come and pursue higher studies. Apart from studies, Port Vila also is quite vibrant in terms of sports. So they play cricket, they play football, basketball, a lot of water-related sports, sailing, beach volleyball. So all in all, a very vibrant city and an extremely good location to come and pursue the 5 to 6 years of medical education. Quickly going ahead, Ronnie has already thrown light on the importance of government backing. And one of the most important things about this institute is that the PMO office, the Prime Minister office, has declared this institute as an institute of national importance. And this has been incubated within the Ministry of Health with the support of Ministry of Education in Vanuatu. So the government has also ensured that we are academically integrated with the National Hospital of Port Vila. It is the largest hospital in the country with about 400 beds and a very good team of doctors who provide consultation not only to the patients from Port Vila, but patients from all over the nation country who come in here. Quickly about our programs, we offer the 5.5-year MBBS program, which is aligned to the Indian subcontinent students, and the Global MD program, which is aligned to ECFMG guidelines. And objective of this program is to clear the USMLE exam. I will go into more details of these programs very soon. Quickly touching upon the accreditations, we are locally approved by the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Health. We are also registered with the Vanuatu Qualifications Authority, which is essentially the qualifications framework of the country and allows us to be a degree awarding body. Our ECFMG approval is currently going on. It's a long-term process, and we are hoping that we will be listed in WDOMS by October 2023. MBBS curriculum is aligned to AIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, which that is what is required for NMC and to ensure that the students can write the next exam when they go back. Curriculum partnership, we also have a curriculum partnership with Medical University of South Carolina, specifically for the MD program. We already have built a solid body of faculty, a mix of people who are going to be here physically and be part of the on-ground faculty, and a team of global experts who are going to join this institution as adjunct faculty. Quickly looking into the programs, let me first talk about the 5.5-year program, which is aligned to NMC. This is typical, it satisfies all the regulations which have been mentioned in the NMC Gazette. It's a 4.5-year study and 1-year mandatory internship. The college is academically attached to the hospital, and the students will do their 1-year mandatory internship in the Port Vila Central Hospital. Also, we are also satisfying conditions like the students who pass out from our college are going to get registered to become medical practitioners in Vanuatu. So they are fully eligible to write the next exam as per the schedule, and the system that NMC is still fine-tuning. The global MD program, let us have a look at this other option that the students from India have. This is for the students who have done high school, and they will come and do 2 years of pre-med program with us before going into the MD program. I wanted to stress here that the MD program is not the postgraduate MD program that we mention in India, but it's the Doctor of Medicine program, which is the nomenclature for the undergraduate program in US and other Western countries. So once the students have completed the 2 years of pre-med, they will start their 4 year of undergrad MD program. Out of these 4 years, 2 years are for preclinical studies, after which they will write the USMLE 1 exam. And once they have completed USMLE 1 exam, they will get eligible to do their 2 years of clinical rotations in one of our partner hospitals. And we are right now building a network of partner hospitals across countries like Australia, New Zealand, India, Middle East, as well as US and Canada in future. So the students will have a wide choice to apply to where they can apply to a partner hospital. And of course, depending on their performance and their and how the kind of marks that they score, they will get opportunity in one of these hospitals to do 2 years of clinical rotation. Once they have completed their 2 years of clinical rotation, they will get eligible to write USMLE 2. And once they pass USMLE 2, the pathway is quite exciting. They can apply for residency, which is nothing but assisted practice. It's a job for a practicing doctor. They can apply for a residency in US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and many other countries which accept ECFMG and USMLE norms. Of course, for Australia, they will have to write the AMC exam as well. Here, the key part is clearing the USMLE exam. And let me tell you, from year one, right from pre-med, our program is developed and it is going to be delivered in a way that is going to prepare the students for clearing the USMLE exam. Of course, before their exam, like USMLE 1 or USMLE 2, there will be specific training for these exams. And we will share how these exams are conducted, what are the pattern, we will make the students practice. But overall pedagogy for this program is designed in a way that it will prepare the students for the USMLE exam from day one. So these are the two programs, and pathways are simple. After the 5.5 years MBBS, students can go back, write the next exam, and get registered in India. And for the global MD program, they can pursue a global career and appear for the USMLE exam and go to one of the countries like US, Canada, New Zealand, even Middle East, and practice as a doctor once they have completed their USMLE 2 exam. So Praneeth, I'll take a pause here, and maybe if there are some questions, or maybe we can ask some, we can give opportunity to our participants to ask some questions before we move along.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think questions will be good. Yeah, thanks.
Sure, thanks. For everyone who's just joined us, wishing all of you a very good evening. Thank you for being here with us. We've got with us Tirtha Banerjee, the Executive Director for UIMS, and Ronnie Screwvala, the Chairman of upGrad Group. Please feel free to ask us anything on the Q&A button that you see on the bottommost tab of your Zoom app. Meanwhile, Dave, if I think of myself as a student, I think there are 3 things on my mind. One is, if I do not choose to do an MBBS in India, and I am choosing as a pathway to move out, how do you rate the UIMS Vanuatu MBBS among all the other MBBS options? I know for certain one thing on my mind is that if I go for an MBBS in Georgia, or if I go for an MBBS in Russia, if I go in MBBS in China, there's not more than one option that I come back and then I practice here in India. But if there's a chance that I'm unable to clear the next, what happens then is not something that is truly certain. In Vanuatu, because there's a certain need of a million healthcare workers, including doctors, at least I have a path that I can explore if I do not want to come back. That's one. But I'd love to know more about that from you. How do you rate it, including safety data?
Sure. So Praneeth, first of all, the advantage is that the students, whether they do the MBBS program or they do the global MD program, they are going to get registered as a practicing medical professional in Vanuatu. And
Wonderful.
Vanuatu has a thriving economy. It has a population of almost 400,000 people. They have 6 large hospitals here and about 20 healthcare centers spread across about 80 islands. They certainly require a lot of doctors. And similarly, in this region, there are other countries, set of 9 countries in South Pacific who would recognize this, and the students will get opportunity to go and pursue their career in these countries, just in case they are not able to clear next. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is all these other options which are available, especially in CIS countries. I've mentioned this earlier, but the languages they speak are very different, and usually the students who do well from there are the ones who take that extra effort and try to learn the language, because by the time they go into their clinicals in the 3rd year, it is very difficult to have command on a foreign language. And if you don't have that, they are not allowed to touch patients or talk to patients. That is a big advantage in Vanuatu. And this advantage will make it possible for them to clear the next exam. Even it will increase their percentages, because next exam is now modeled on USMLE. And while the next one is a theory-based exam, next two is going to be a proper practical-based exam. And if you do not have a right clinical exposure, if you have not done the processes, if you have not done your patient interaction, you will not be able to clear it. And if you look at the history of the FMG exam, which is this year it is the last one, the people from coming out from these countries, only 11% people pass the FMG exam, which is an abysmal number, and it is an indicator of what is happening in these countries. And one of the major problems is the language. Here we will ensure that the students from year one, and another thing that we are going to do different, and why I'm going to rate UIMS very high and much ahead of these colleges, is because the first possibility of clinical exposure that we get in these colleges is from year 3, where some 10 students follow one doctor and they barely get any exposure. What we are going to do, we have designed the pedagogy for both programs in a way that from year 1 students are going to get exposure. And upGrad, being a technologically strong and evolved company, we are ensuring that we are utilizing all these technological interventions like live telemedicine sessions. From year 1, students will follow doctors and follow telemedicine sessions, see how diagnostic interactions happen, and see what kind of tests are prescribed. In year 2, they are going to get exposure to real-time OT procedures. They are going to be able to see live procedures where narration will happen and a lot of complicated procedures will be shown to them. So by the time they go into the actual clinical rotations in year 3, they will have already seen it all, and they will be ready for it. And similarly, once they have finished their clinical rotations, I am sure they will be much better prepared to face the world when they are on the hospital floor.
Absolutely. Dave, thanks for that. Ronnie, my next one is for you. What would you say to a student who can be easily admitted into a school in India, but is definitely looking out if there's an opportunity to become a global medical practitioner? How do you give them the confidence that now is the age when they can step out and still make it? And they don't have to wait for another 2 or 3 or 4 more years to actually feel that they're now mature enough or academically ready to step out. What is your take on that, Ronnie?
Yeah. So my message to a student would be really the following. Firstly, it's a personal choice, but it's a very important choice. Our success, our super success, our future depends mostly on the choices we make. So whatever the choice, whatever your reasoning, do it for the right reasons. Second, we're all here on this call. We're all Indians. We're very proud of being Indians. So at no stage do I want to say that India is not a good destination. It is. We have some incredible faculty. We have some incredible universities. Some of them are difficult to get into. Some of them have their own limitations. Some of them go with a certain level where the pressure on you might be incredible because of the selection process. So it is a personal choice. Exercise it. But I would say that the exposure that you're going to get in a foreign land is very, very different. The opportunities that open up for you, because you made this choice, multiple newer choices will occur in your life over the next 5 to 6 years, because you've given yourself that optionality versus staying in your home country, which is also not bad with that. So first, the choice you make will open up more choices. So that was one part. The second part is the exposure. When you're dealing with a cosmopolitan use of people, and I think the mixture of the people that you'll get there, the batchmates and the college, why do people go abroad to study? A lot of it is your network. A lot of it is cross learning from multiple students and the exposure. So I think that distinct advantage of being in a foreign land, stepping out of your own home and the safety and the warmth of the family comfort, but figuring out what the real life is outside, lonely as it may be. And, we've all lived through that. But I think those are the years later on that make us really good, hardened. And I think, therefore, that exposure to go out there without the comfort of your own family sometimes, and with peers and with the college students that you would learn to create that network, just gives you a very, very different background. So there are a lot of strong points for going overseas, and especially to a very unique destination like Vanuatu. But it's your personal choice.
Absolutely. Dave, my next one is for you, but I think before that, we've got someone who asked a question, but that's related to masters. So I think we may want to skip that since we're talking about global MD and MBBS, both of which are on undergrad.
Ronnie, the first question is ISAT mandatory for medicine in Australia. Dave can answer this question.
Sure.
Yeah,
Dave?
quick answer. Yes, ISAT is mandatory if you want to take enrollment into a medicine course in Australia. For us, ISAT is not mandatory. For UIMS, if you want to get into the global MD program, you have to take the UIMS entrance exam, which is objective-based online exam. The MBBS program is completely aligned to NMC. So I think we are also, while answering this question, we are also answering the other question which has come up. What kind of exam do you guys?
What exam do you guys have to get an admission?
So for the MBBS program, you need to have a qualified NEET score. That is what the NMC guidelines says. And if you have a qualified NEET score and you have, you are fulfilling the other basic eligibility criteria, like you've got physics, chemistry, biology, and English mandatorily, and you've scored 50% in aggregate in your +2, then you are eligible. And of course, you need a qualified NEET score, which is less than 2 years old.
Dave, thanks for that. My next one is for Ronnie. Ronnie, when we started UIMS, I'd love for you to tell us what are the 3 core methodologies or core beliefs that you very deeply embedded in how we've designed the student experience? In what is it that upGrad truly believes in that UIMS is strictly going to follow?
Very collaborative. That's very important. We strongly believe in this entire element of collaboration. I think the entire medical fraternity today realizes that actually, when you're looking at that, it's like every part of your body, right? It is a collaborative effort because there are different specialists for every part of your body. So even medicine is an extremely collaborative process. There are many adjuncts that come in there. There are specialists, there are generalists, and there are people who want to be generalist doctors and specialist doctors. So I think this whole collaborative environment, which means that at the core of it, even our faculty we choose have this so the collaborative would be one. My second would be diversity. And again, that's going to reflect in our faculty. It's going to reflect in the fact that we've picked this location. We have not picked this location for a small reason. We picked it because we believe that entire Pacific belt, close to Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and many other places, is very dynamic. It's something that will grow. So I think diversity is an important part, both in our faculty, in our advisory board, in our students, in our ability to learn them. And third is a 360-degree learning process, which is really, obviously, it's a very tough curriculum. There's a phenomenal amount of depth and deep work you need to do. But when we walked around and we've seen our hospital in Vanuatu and how people look at that, I think medicine and its success is as much about empathy as it is about communication, as it is about numerical knowledge. And I think one of the best qualities for a really good doctor to really proceed forward is the soft factors of empathy and everything else. And I think if you see some of our team members and what we want to do, that value system that we want to ingrain with our people is going to be very important. it's collaborative diversity and that entire element also.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ronnie. Dave, so we've got one more. What is the average expenses per month in Vanuatu for a student? I think that is one that you can answer. The second one is, would there be more students from the southern part of India?
Okay, so taking it one by one, let me address the expenses. So what we have done is we have created a package for our students, and we will obviously want our students to stay, take up the facilities, because they would stay together, and we would take care of all the services there. So they will be living in the hostels provided by UIMS, and we will also provide them food, lunch, and dinner, which will be, you will be surprised to know, very, very nice, good homemade Indian food, which we are setting up our own cloud kitchen here to provide the students. This will cost about $6,000 per year. So you can say about $600 per month for the students, for the living facility, as well as the lunch and dinner food. Apart from this, there will be transport also included in this, to and fro to the college. I'm sure this covers almost 90% of the expenses, but yes, of course, there will be a little bit here and there, entertainment, some transport outside of this. So the students should account for about $6,000 to $6,500 per year for their expenses, living expenses in Vanuatu.
Got that, Dave. Dave, that also prompts me to ask you one more thing. For a student who's looking at investing into UIMS, what are some of the average salaries like if they were to work in Vanuatu? How do you calculate, or how do you see the return on investment for the next 3 years after they graduate? And that also, I think the follow-up to that will be, for how long can this stay there? Is there a stipulated limit?
Okay, so firstly, once they finish their program, and if they decide to stay in Vanuatu, then they would have already spent 6 years in Vanuatu, and another 4 years they will approach naturalization, where they can apply for citizenship, and they will of course get visa to work here once they have completed and they have been registered as a medical professional. And as I told, there are opportunities in the government hospital and the government setup, and also the private. There are private hospitals as well over here. So there is a lot of opportunity for students to stay back and practice as a medical professional. And as far as the salaries are concerned, typically a qualified doctor, MBBS, undergrad doctor who is still to do their PG or specialization, who would either be a general physician or an internal medicine specialist, they would earn anywhere between 2 lakh to 2.5 lakh Indian rupees to begin with. And of course, this is in Vanuatu. But let me tell you, once they pass out from this program, their doors will open for a lot of countries around this region. And if they write the AMC exam and pass the AMC exam, which is the Australian Medical Council, Australia has a severe shortage of doctors. And I'm not talking about specialists or super specialists here. I'm talking about general physicians and internal medicine specialists, especially in their provincial areas. And the salaries there are amazing. I mean, a general physician starting off in a provincial area in Australia can start off earning anywhere between $200,000 to $250,000 per year, which is an amazing salary.
Australia itself has a shortage of 0.45 million healthcare workers, including doctors. So of course, I think it's a very lucrative option. I think so. What you're saying is essentially they should be able to recoup on their return. I mean, on their complete investment in about 1.5 years, right? Ronnie, my next one is for you, and I think the one I'm going to ask is a little candid. A lot of students that we counseled believe that because this is the first batch, they feel that they want to hear from you that if the batch size is a little shorter than anticipated, we would still be going on and going ahead with the course, and it's not that we have a stipulated batch size to run it. What is your opinion on that? Talking from an investment standpoint, talking from the fact.
It's not even from an investment standpoint. We're here for the next 10, 20 years. When you're building something for the next 10, 20 years, we don't look at it as a first batch or a second batch, and therefore what would happen. In fact, I think, and you know, we have in our at upGrad across, we have a cohort or a class starting with 10 students. We have 1,500 students in a cohort. The 1,500 students have their own sense of excitement and fun because there's a lot of cross learning. The 10 students also love it because they get very different kind of attention. So our faculty is committed. They're there. The government has signed us off. The flag has been hoisted. The doors have been opened. The faculty is starting to teach. The labs are full. You know, none of that is going away. Whether there's this batch of 30 or a batch of 60, or we start with a batch of 100, we're there. We're there for the long term.
Thank you so much. I think that definitely answers it. We've got one more there. We've got
one more addition to it. I'm sure
Please.
even Ronnie would want to talk on this. This is our first campus in this region. And the vision of this project is not to only have one campus, but have at least 5 campuses across in the next 2 to 4 years.
Yes, absolutely. So in medical, we will have, you know, at least 5 campuses over the next 4 years. Outside of the fact that we have a large physical college in Mumbai, and we are with the government of Singapore launched our university in Singapore already. So this is not us venturing out into something for the first time ever.
Thanks, Ronnie. That ought to answer it. For any parent or student here who still has a question for Ronnie, so Ronnie has a hard stop at 7. Is there any other final question for Ronnie Screwvala? You may want to go ahead now on the Q&A button. Dave, we've got one more. How much?
So I'll drop off, but I do want to thank everybody. I think I want to just reaffirm our total and absolute sense of commitment on this. Make your choice, make it right. We're not here to pitch. We're here to tell you what we are doing. We'd love it if you join our vision to what we want to do. But wherever you are, follow the career and follow your choice is what we would say here. Thank you.
Thanks, Ronnie. Thank you so much, Ronnie. Dave, we've got a student who wants to ask the minimum amount of scholarship that you'd be awarding as UIMS for both these, the MBBS and the Global MD. And so your take on that. If you've got a slide, you may as well want to present the slide.
Yeah. So let me just go ahead because there are certain questions I can see here. Maybe we can start answering. Who is the regulatory authority of UIMS? So UIMS is governed by Vanuatu Qualifications Authority, which gives us the power to be an autonomous degree awarding body in this country. And the other accreditations that we will have is ECFMG approval, which by itself brings in the listing to WDOMS, World Directory of Medical Colleges, and also WFME. So these are the accreditations and regulatory authority to whom we are attached to. There is a question on how much minimum percentage do you actually need for MBBS abroad? Okay, so for the MBBS program, you need 50% marks in your 12th aggregate and PCB as well. And scholarships, yes. So scholarships is based on NEET exam or the UIMS exam. So let me just continue. I'll present my screen again and take you guys through some of the more interesting aspects of UIMS, and we will of course address the fees very quickly.
Yeah, but I think it would be nice after to talk about the fee structure, scholarships, everything that.
We have a slide where we will talk about it.
Sure.
Yeah. So quickly, I wanted to show our facilities. You can see the building. This is the actual campus building, and it's in a beautiful area. On the left-hand side of the building, there is the Parliament area of Vanuatu, which is the seat of the government. And on the right side is the National Convention Center. And behind you can see the Villa Bay. So this is our building right in the middle of the Parliament area, which is one of the most elite areas in the country. You can also see the hospital. It's a 400-bed hospital, a Villa Central Hospital, which has various specialty and super specialty departments like orthopedic surgery, ophthalmology, emergency care, even pediatric, maternity, and all. This hospital is about a 5-minute walk from our campus, and our students will do all their clinical rotations in here. We will provide accommodation to students, girls and boys separately. The girls' hostel is about less than half a kilometer from the campus, and the boys' hostel is about 1.5 kilometers from the campus. And we will provide a dedicated security and services team in the hostel, and also the food will be delivered to the hostel from our cloud kitchen hostel and the college. So moving ahead, other facilities, yes, we will have digital labs and libraries. Our labs are going to be state of art, and we are going to do away with the cadaver methodology like most top colleges in the world have done now. We are going to have our own set of 3D anatomy tables and synthetic cadavers, which the students will explore to do a lot of virtual dissecting. The best part is you can keep doing it again and again, and it's still there. You don't have to crowd around a cadaver anymore. Planned hospital partnerships, I spoke about this, and we are right now in process of tying up with various hospitals in US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Middle East, Southeast Asia, and the students will get the opportunity to do their clinical studies in these hospitals. Of course, the MBBS students have to do their mandatory internship in the Vanuatu Villa Central Hospital. We will help the students with visa, and it's fairly easy. The visa process in Vanuatu, especially for Indian students, actually Indians can travel here and get a visa on arrival. For students, it's a simple application form with some documents which have to be submitted, and our admissions team will support with that. Apart from that, we will, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'd just like to pause here for just to make everyone realize that a visa for an Indian student is super easy and seamless in Vanuatu compared to any other part of the world where you're trying to pursue your MBBS, and majorly because this visa is such a big uncertainty. You pay for the fee, you pay for everything else that you're supposed to pay in advance, and sometimes your visa gets refused. So that is something that you would certainly not face in Vanuatu. That's one part. I think the second part that they've emphasized on is the technology, the state-of-the-art infrastructure, the 3D labs that are there. I think, like Ronnie was mentioning, the career outcomes, similar to what Dave was speaking, are primary and are the center of how we plan everything. And I think I'd like for Dave to spend a little bit more time to explain
the
internships, the experiential component of the MBBS degree or the global MD degree that we've designed at UIMS that is simply not possible in an Indian medical school because of the lack of infrastructure in most of them, including a lack of tie-ups with real hospitals where they can actually watch doctors practice. That's something I'd love for Dave to speak more about.
Sure. And the next slide is about is a little bit more about that, Praneeth. So, see, the curriculum is what we teach, and obviously we are bound by various accreditation agencies like NMC or ECFMG on the curriculum part. But pedagogy is how we teach, and that is something that we are going to redefine for medical colleges across the world. So, first thing is that start clinical interventions right from year 1. We will not wait till year 3 where the students finally get an opportunity to walk into a hospital, ask questions to a doctor. No, we are not going to do that. So we are going to expose students in year 1 itself to clinical interactions, patient interactions, where they will see and they will be part of a diagnostic conversation between a doctor and a patient, and then they can have a session with the doctor, understanding how that conversation went and what will be the next steps. They can do this live, and they can also see recordings. This is all going to be done through an exclusive partnership with one of the largest telemedicine providers in India. I would want to stress on this because I saw a question a little while ago that will Vanuatu clinical exposure limit our students? No, certainly it will not. Vanuatu itself has a lot of range of issues and diseases. But we are not depending on Vanuatu for our clinical interventions. We are going to do this through telemedicine, and we are going to expose our students to diseases in India, in Middle East, in Southeast Asia, and also in countries like US, Canada in future. And this is all going to be done through technology. We will have smart classrooms where two-way interaction will be possible with all our adjunct faculties who will be spread across the world. Through upGrad platform, we are going to stress on blended learning. So while the students will come to classroom, they will attend classes, but they will also interact with their mentors. They will also do case studies. They will follow a lot of online journals, and it's going to be rigorous, but it's going to be complete and holistic. As far as the labs are concerned, as I already said, we are doing away with cadavers, and we will provide, as you can see on screen, this is called an anatomy table, 3D anatomy table, and you can do all kind of dissections on this table completely virtually, and it is upgraded on a monthly basis. So whatever new technologies or new slides or new cuts are coming in, it keeps getting updated here. Another thing that we will do is the internship. Yes, it's a very important part that Praneeth brought up. And firstly, you are going to do your clinical rotations in the hospital, Vanuatu Villa Central Hospital, where you will get exposed to various departments and various specialities. And then, of course, in the MD program, you are going to go to our partner hospital where you will be assigned, you will be rotated among various specialist departments, and you will be assigned a mentor there who will ensure that you cover all the credits and you get to do the required amount of procedures, you get to interact with patients, and you get an entire experience of being on the floor of a hospital before you actually go there as a doctor.
Dave, thanks for that. I think from a question standpoint, we've answered everything. I'd love for you to speak a little bit about the fee structure and scholarships, Dave.
Sure. So before we go to the fee structure, quickly, I just want to run over our academic leadership. Dr. Krishna Bhatt is our Chief Academic Advisor. He is actually right now in University of South Florida, and he's a neurologist and an awarded researcher. We've got our Dean, Dr. Vivek Lal, who is in Vanuatu. He has 20 years of experience as in the Indian Armed Forces as a medical doctor, and also 20 years of teaching experience in various colleges in Guyana, Caribbean, Mauritius, and Saudi Arabia. And then we have our Deputy Dean, who is also a researcher with more than 30 years of research under her belt. And she has worked in Fiji for 12 years with both the medical schools right from the initial stages. So we're very lucky to have this team who has set up the entire academic structure for this college. The advisory board, of course, Ronnie is part of it, and we also have Dr. Krishna Bhatt, who I spoke about. We've got Ambassador Robin Nair, who's based out of Canberra, and he's a career diplomat, and he has served Australia and Fiji both in foreign services. And of course, we have Dr. Girdhar Gyani. He is a very well-known personality in Indian medical landscape. He's the one who actually developed the NABH a quality structure which all hospitals in India have to follow. Moving on, our adjunct faculty, you can just have a look. We have people from various specialties from various countries, Mauritius, US, Italy, Australia, and of course India. And all these faculties will be part of a global mentorship team who will keep interacting with the students across their program. Okay, eligibility, we have already spoken about. So quickly, let us now go to, unless there are any specific questions related to eligibility. Some of the important points that I wanted to make here is that people keep asking, is there an upper age limit? No, there is no upper age limit to apply for these programs. And if I have a gap in education, no problem if you have a gap in education, but you fulfill all the other eligibility criteria, we will still accept your application. For the MD program, you have to write UIMS entrance exam if you don't have a NEET score, which is at least less than 2 years old. And for the MBBS program, it is mandatory to have a qualified NEET score. English proficiency language score, again, it's a very important question, which people ask me. No, for Vanuatu, not required. But in future, if you go to Australia, US or Canada to do your clinical rotation, of course, we have to follow the law of that country. Now we come to the fee structure, finally. And as you can see, we have made it much more understandable. So for the MBBS, year-wise, you pay a tuition fee of about 6 lakhs for the first 5 years and 3 lakhs for the 6th year. There's a hostel fee of 2.5 lakhs per year and food cost of 2 lakhs per year. Overall, MBBS fees comes to about 58 lakhs for the entire package, including stay and food. But of course, there is a scholarship opportunity available for NEET qualified applicants. Whoever has scored between 200 to 250, there is a 40,000 rupees annual waiver available on MBBS, 80,000 rupees on MD. Between 251 to 350, 80,000 for MBBS and 120,000 for MD. And anybody who has scored 350 plus, 120,000 rupees annually will be waived off, and 160,000 for the global MD program. UIMS entrance obviously is required only for global MD. And this is an exam which will be scored out of 800. And out of 800, you get between 400 to 450, 80,000 annually will be waived off. Between 451 to 550, 120,000 will be waived off. And 550 plus about 160,000 will be waived off. Looking at the global MD, it's a 6-year program, and it comes to overall cost, including tuition fees and hostel fees, comes to about 90 lakh Indian rupees. It is a very good opportunity because similar pathway colleges in Caribbean, the stay cost and the food cost and the tuition fee, if you put all together, you will not find a good option below 2 crore Indian rupees. So what we are doing is right now for this first few batches, and we want students to take advantage of this and build a global career pathway.
Thanks, Dave. Is there any student at this point who wants to gain a little bit more clarity on the fee structure? Like they mentioned, we've got, of course, our scholarships for the NEET exam, but we've also got our own exam, the entrance exam that you can also take. And plus, I think just to take you back to what Dave had mentioned, for the global MD, if you do not have a NEET score, we'll still have an entrance exam for you in place that you can take and enter the global MD. However, for MBBS, you are mandated to take the NEET exam. Is there any question at all at this point? And if at all, please put that down in the Q&A button that's at the bottommost tab of your Zoom app. Dave, just to summarize what Ronnie had mentioned, I think we'll just want to re-emphasize on these points. Number one, I think for an organizational setup like upGrad, which is Asia's largest higher ed platform, we've got a university in Mumbai, we've got a university now in Singapore, we've got one of the largest tech platforms in the world with about 10 million students studying on it. There is no first batch or second batch or third batch or fourth batch. For us, this is a cohort. If it had 5 students or 1,200, it'll still be alike. We've got the government recognition. We've got the statutory policies, approvals in place. We're going to be fully accredited by October 2023 globally. And I think to top it up, we've got the faculty laboratory, all the infrastructure fully set up now for you to start your first batch with us. That said, if there's any other parent who has any question on our strength and capability to pull off the first batch, please put the exact question forward, and I'm sure Dave can answer it. In terms of faculty, I think we're very confident that, of course, our faculty, all of them have been global practitioners, but we also got adjuncts from schools like Johns Hopkins that are going to come every month or on alternative months to teach and take a class. You will be studying in tandem with a hospital to make sure that your learning is experientially reinforced and the outcomes are achieved in a much more optimum manner.
So a quick word on our faculty, Praneeth, is that we are hiring faculty who have worked in various colleges, and not only in India but across the world. Our dean, he has experience in teaching in 4 to 5 different countries apart from India, And he also comes with a rich experience of Indian Armed Forces. So when you talk about Indian Armed Forces, you talk about discipline, you talk about commitment, and it carries a different trust in itself. And Dr. Vivek Lal is bringing that to this college. And as far as the other faculty are concerned, we will have people coming from US, UK, Australia, UAE, and we will have global mentors from all over this place, and they will be connected to the students across the program. And what we are doing is that we are moving away from the older system-based study to a more problem-based and case-based study to prepare students for these new age exams like USMLE and now what next is becoming, so that they acquire the knowledge and they are ready to practice the knowledge that they gain in these 5 to 6 years. So we are hiring faculty accordingly who have experience with problem-based learning. So it's going to be top notch, and needless to say, where the upGrad brand name comes in, there will be no compromise of any kind on quality of either faculty or content or any kind of lab services. So it's every college has a first batch. So we don't really have to worry about it, because for upGrad, this is not a first batch. This is among so many other batches that we have conducted, whether it is online or whether it is offline in physical campuses.
Dave, thanks for that. I'm just going to take one more with you. There is someone who's asking, do we give access to financial loans? Well, of course, upGrad has a good infrastructure for lending partners. We can acquaint you, introduce you to partners and banks who can help you secure a loan for yourself. As an organizational setup ourselves, we're not really a lender, but we can help you connect to someone who's a partner who will help you get that in a much more easier way. Dave, is there a spouse visa regulatory guideline for someone? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so if you come in as a student, you will get a student visa, and based on that, we can get a residence visa for your spouse.
Absolutely. Fine. Thanks, Dave. There's one more question. How many Indian students are studying in Vanuatu?
Currently not a lot. Maybe there would be around 50 Indian families here who are based out of Vanuatu, and so about 50-60 students studying in various courses. They have a university called University of South Pacific. It's the only university accepting students from outside Vanuatu. Ours is going to be the first setup in terms of a university which will have more international students than local students. So you can look forward to have many more Indian students here in the upcoming couple of years.
Thanks, Dave. That brings us to the end of the webinar. Thank you very much. If you guys have got any last or any final questions for Dev Tirtha Banerjee, the Executive Director of UIMS, please put that down in the Q&A button. But I think I'd like to reinforce and re-emphasize one more thing that Ronnie had mentioned, that upGrad just set up a new university called Atlas Skill Tech in 2021 in the heart of Mumbai, BKC. And in the last 2 years, we've finally reached a stand of 3,700 students. It's a flourishing school. It's got a design school, business school, engineering school, so much so that we just launched our first MBA as well. I think that's the kind of caliber, capability, and scale of how aggressive and how invested we are in setting up state-of-the-art university infrastructure across the world. And UIMS Vanuatu is not the first, the first and the only one. We are on a journey, on a path to set up so many such schools of excellence, which are going to be providing medical higher ed. Dave, any parting words?
Yeah, so like Ronnie said, finally it comes down to a personal decision, and students have to choose their own path. All we can do is we can show the right pathways, and we can guide the students. And of course, our admissions team will be there to anybody who reaches out with more questions. and we would be happy to guide and counsel the students, provide the answers. But all I want to say is that this is a lovely destination which has come up, and there will be more upgrad destinations coming up in future. So once you are part of this institute, you will be part of a very strong and growing ecosystem. And of course, all of us here in Vanuatu and our team in India will support you all the way.
Dave, we've got one question. Can an MPC student do an MBBS abroad? You already know what MPC implies here. Manish, can you be a little bit more clearer on what you really want to know? Meanwhile, Dave, when and where are we studying in the United States, place and university? So the last 2 years, you're going to be practicing in the US. This is a concept that's called clinical rotation. And you may or may not want to do it in the US. You can do it anywhere else in the world as well, depending on what options we give you. But I'd still let Dave answer this, that how is the global MD broken?
Quickly on the MPC part, I believe it means maths, physics, chemistry, but no, biology is required. It's mandatory. So it's PCB that we are looking at, physics, chemistry, biology. That is one answering Manish's question.
For medicine or medical studies, you do need biology for 100%. Dave, if I'm not wrong, I think we can give these students an option to take up biology as an extra subject, clear it, and then take need. And if they've not, they can, even if they just take biology and score up above 50%, they can still take the UIMS entrance exam and go for the global MD, right? As long as they got bio in class 12.
See, I would suggest the students of MPC to do a graduation first in biosciences. And if they complete a graduation in biosciences, then they can get a lateral entry into the MD program.
Which means they start from the third year. They will start from the third year onwards, is it?
So it depends. If they do a 3-year graduation, they start from the second year. If they do a 4-year graduation with biosciences, then they start from the third year.
Wonderful. Wow. That is an interesting point. If there's anyone here on this call who's already done a BSc in biosciences or biotech, they can start as a lateral entry student in the global MD. If they've done a 3-year degree, then in the second year. If they've done a 4-year bachelor's, then in the third year. Dave, yes?
Yep, that's correct.
Got it. Dave, the final one for you. So we answer the NPC. So that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for joining, Dave. And thanks everybody for joining us, and Ronnie. I am putting down my email address for any questions at all. Dave, if you want, you may want to put down your email address as well, if in case they want to ask you anything straight up with respect. Or I'll also put down Priyashree's email address. So with respect to any academic or infrastructure-based or technical questions at all, please redirect them to Dave. But if you want help and assistance in counseling and want to know about UIMS, want to know about the courses, scholarship, tuition, loans, everything academically, Dave, anything administratively, upgrad. So Priyashree and myself, we'd love to help you with this and connect you to Dave. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Praneeth. Thanks, everybody, for joining in.
Dave, 1 second. We just final question. Can the 12th pass do undergrad abroad? Of course, yes. Thank you, David.
Yes. Of course, 12th pass is the eligibility requirement, but you should have, to do MBBS, you should have physics, chemistry, biology as subjects, and you should have scored 50% in PCB as well as aggregate.
We've got someone asking about clinical rotation. So Prathamesh, I'm giving you Dave's email address. I think in the best interest of time, I will let Dave answer this to you over an email instead. But essentially, it's the last 2 years that you spend in the United States in a hospital, closely studying, observing, practicing. If Dave wants to add a one-liner to it.
So it is the clinical. So again, MD program is divided into 3 parts. First 2 years is pre-med. Second is preclinical, which is done in Vanuatu. And while doing preclinical, you get certain amount of clinical exposure in the Vanuatu hospital. The last 2 years will be completely in a partner hospital. This partner hospital can be in US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand. There will be various options. And of course, the student have to apply, and their application must carry enough weightage to get selected for one of our partner hospitals. Then you spend 2 years doing clinical rotation. You're still part of the program. It is not an internship, it is clinical rotations.
Thanks, Deb. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.